Time for Here's the Deal, and joining us tonight, Mario Canseco and Cheryl Ziola. They are at our downtown studio. Lee Checkstead here in Burnaby with me. Hi, gang in downtown Vancouver. How are you?
Great.
Doing fine.
That's good. Anybody got a bobblehead yet?
Not from Rob Ford. I have a collection of others, but none of them have done tracks. So
Do you want one?
Exciting. Who knows? Maybe they will go up in value. I think they might.
Yeah, they might.
I thought we had a bobblehead running the city of Toronto.
Yeah, they do. We're going to get to that. I want to start off, though, with forced to move. An appeal court decision today, or yesterday, rather. Rose Jordison has to sell her condo and get out after, I guess, I could say she and her son have driven the neighbors crazy. Cheryl, is this a reasonable move by the court? Should a court be able to force someone to sell their home?
Well, it's an interesting case, and I wrestled with it a bit because I actually do have an autistic son. However...
So let's reference that. Rose says her son, Jordy, is autistic.
But couldn't provide any documentation from a doctor about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so when I looked into it a little further, I thought, well, why didn't she at least get him diagnosed so that she could seek adequate medical treatment? Why make the neighbors live through years and years of complaints and not do anything about it? I think she had a duty to seek some treatment for her son.
Mm-hmm. But to the house issue, should I don't want to say should because they've obviously done it. Does this worry you for other condo owners, for other people, perhaps with autistic kids who might be targeted?
Well, I think there's the same token you could look at barking dogs and secondhand smoke. I mean, the fact is we have to live together as a society in small spaces. And, even if you have an autistic boy and it doesn't give you license to make everyone else around you suffer, you have a duty to do something to mitigate or to help him. I mean, she probably didn't know she had resources, but all she had to do was ask for help.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a slippery slope, though, because every condo has a nuisance neighbor. So does this mean everyone's going to go after them? That said, in this case, the woman also hadn't kept up with her strata fees, which I think strengthens the argument of this particular strata, but makes me worried for some of those other...
Well, yeah, in this particular case, clearly some issues. But Mario, I mean, where does a court draw the line?
It's a tough one because ordering them to sell, it seems to be a little bit tougher than most cases. So there's always going to be difficulties. Stratas are really difficult. Neighbors fight all the time. There's always discussions. Secondhand smoke is one of my favorites because it affects everybody and there's a lot of discussions about it. But to be forced to sell seems to be a little bit too much for me.
Mm-hmm. I know people who live next to people and the pot smoke is, so strong and wafting through. I mean, is that going to be something that, people can be forced to out of their homes? We'll have to wait and see. Let's talk about the deer cull in Victoria. And if you're from Victoria, you know exactly what Oak Bay is. It's this lovely, well-mannered, well-heeled neighborhood. And it's got some beautiful green spaces. And so, unfortunately, the deer are taking over. Is a cull the answer, Mario?
Well, it's not the first time it happens. Certainly, it's the first time it happens for this particular species, but we've seen cases of rabbits, particularly around the University of Victoria. So it's not something that hasn't happened before. If it's done humanely, and I think this is the case, then it shouldn't be too much of a bother for many people.
It maybe makes me think, lots of people go hunting for deer, for food. Like, why not do that? Why not hunt the deer and feed people who don't have food?
Well, I don't think you can...
Sorry.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
No, you're absolutely right. That was one thing I wanted to bring up, is if we're going to cull the deer, let's give them to the homeless or the hungry. Let's not throw the meat out. It's great meat. Venison's wonderful. It's a high-end food in most restaurants. Use it.
I think if you've seen these deer running around Oak Bay, they do not always look like the healthiest of species that you'd want to eat. These aren't beautiful deer frolicking in a field. Some of them don't look so healthy.
Well, they don't have to be beautiful.
No, but they look sickly.
I'm just not sure if black-tailed deer is a species that's good. Cheryl, you seem to know more about it than I do.
Well, I haven't had any of it, but rabbits are wonderful with paella. That's the way they do it in Valencia. So there's got to be a way to use those animals for something better than just throwing them away.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Rob Ford scandal. And I want to play a clip. I don't know about you guys. I was riveted to Twitter this morning.
Me
These people were tweeting out the stuff that was being said at Toronto City Hall. Here's a clip of Denzel Min and Wong, one of the city councillors who, like everybody, got to question Rob Ford.
Have you purchased illegal drugs in the last 2 years?
Yes, I have. A hypothetical.
Wow. Was that the most pregnant of pregnant pauses you've ever heard?
But he didn't inhale.
No. Well, and then the court documents today, more of those Lisi documents released, and it actually sounds like he might have had prostitutes and cocaine at City Hall.
Yep.
You know-
He and the Italian Prime Minister were having a bunga bunga sex party. That's coming out next.
You know, my friends who live in Italy are happy because now there's something sleazier than Silvio Berlusconi. So they actually thank us for it.
Yeah, well, and I don't think anybody ever thought that that would happen. I was also shocked to hear about how City Hall staff regularly went on vodka runs for the mayor.
Well, this is certainly something that should not happen, and there's a reason for it. If you're becoming an enabler of somebody who has a problem, you're that much a component of this difficulty as the one who is actually having to struggle with this issue. So it's very difficult in that sense because he has to be the mayor of the biggest city in the country. Can he function when he's doing this kind of situation? And I think that's the real question here. If he needs help, and he should get it, and obviously he might, but obviously there's a difficulty here, which is, can you function properly when you're having to deal with this circumstance?
Well, and his chief of staff actually stopped sending him out to evening events because he was an embarrassment at a Garrison dance. That is just ridiculous. You're right, Mario. All of them were enabling him. And one would now suspect that this is a great misuse of city staff. And can't they fire him on that?
It sounds like they were misused in a lot of different ways over the course of a couple of years. And Rob Ford would also disappear for a couple of days at a time.
Yeah.
There were red flags all the way along, and people kept enabling him.
That's
but
right.
what do you do now?
Well, and the council voted overwhelmingly to kick him off. And he still says he's keeping his job.
Well, he'll probably end up at the Betty Ford Clinic, and Lindsay Lohan will be his roommate. He'll write a book.
And become a millionaire.
Yeah.
All right, Cheryl Ziola, Mario Canseco, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And you too, Lee Checkstead.
Thank you.
We'll see you later. Still ahead, more fallout from the Sherpel LaFond report on Aboriginal child welfare. Why one Native group is calling out the representative for children when Unfiltered continues.